Welcome to the Mid-Mask channel. My name is Mid-Mask. This video is all about how to make more interesting combat encounters for your campaign or one-shot in Dungeons & Dragons. I came up with this idea because many times in my campaign I have experimented with combat. Combat can be a hard thing to balance, especially when your party consists of 5 or more people. So I'm making this video to tell you, the viewer, how to make a more interesting and involved combat experience. So here are 5 tips that will help you improve the quality of your combat. Number 1, we can start with making a less traditional fight. And what I mean by that is many fights usually consist of maybe a few enemies, say a couple goblins, and then the party. And the objective is to simply kill the goblins. That's it. We can make this a more interesting experience if we were to give the goblins, each of them, a unique ability of some sort. It divvies up the priorities, meaning the party will have to focus one goblin over the other. Giving a layer of complexity to each enemy or creature within the combat encounter can really help spice things up in the moment. A good example of this would be having some melee goblins and then some goblins who use bows and arrows. The bow and arrow goblins stay all the way in the back, while the melee ones, get up close and start slashing at your ankles. Maybe have the archers do a little more damage than the melee ones, so you have to actively dodge your way past the melee goblins to get to the ranger goblins and get rid of them first. All in all, it creates a nice, interesting depth to the combat. Number 2, make sure the environment for your battle is not just a flat playing field. Give it some complexity. Maybe there are some objects on the floor that the party can use to aid in battle. Or perhaps there is a chandelier that you can swing on and then cut the chain, and then it falls onto many creatures, hastening your battle. Or maybe give catwalks in different places for the rogue or ranger to stand to give them more of a height advantage. This is especially nice if there are flying enemies. Tying some of the essential combat elements to the terrain may also help. A good example of this, say there is a very low level party inside a large icy cave, and they come across a 20-foot tall giant snow yeti. Now, obviously, the party being level maybe 3, too under level to take care of this. But the giant stalactite that they can explode and land onto the giant yeti and slay it that way. It gives the party the means to take care of a problem they normally could not. Number 3, adding... I'm using the force. Consider adding more puzzle-like elements to your combat. If you find your players are very stagnant, they only like to use maybe 1 or 2 of their abilities, say Fireball, Firebolt, Arrow, another arrow. Maybe have some enemies that counter that playstyle, that pressure the player into being like, hey, you need to do something about me or you're going to die, you're going to die, you're going to die, you're dying, they're coming, the fog is coming. Just giving a nice pressure to your players will help them expand on their creativity, allowing them to move forward through combat in a more interesting and creative manner. You don't want to have every combat feel the same because your players just refuse to use anything except the 1 or 2 good abilities that they have. You want them to expand and explore upon the class they have chosen. Number 4, consider your players and what they don't like about 5th edition, or whatever edition of Dungeons & Dragons you are playing. For example, my players did not enjoy stunned, unconscious, paralyzed, the things that take you out of combat for a turn or 2. So, I removed them. Or, I didn't remove them, I just don't use them. And I recommend you communicate with your players. Finding what they do and don't like about combat can be drastic in having a good combat session and a miserable combat session. And trust me, I know the difference quite clearly. I've had my miserable slog combat, and I've had my very fun, interesting, dynamic combat purely because I asked, hey, what do you not like about combat? Final tip. Don't be afraid to get wacky with your combat. And when I say wacky, I mean maybe say the party's already quite high level. Maybe they're in their 17th level. And you just want to go crazy. You have all these cool ideas that you weren't able to execute any earlier in fear of killing the party. But when the party, you know they can handle anything you throw at them, just go nuts. A good example, something I've done in the past is I have a chaos god. And with that chaos god, I have him change elements of the battlefield on the fly. Maybe one of the players grows a tail suddenly and throws them off balance. Or maybe one of them gets turned into a wooden box. That one didn't go over well. But having these unique and maybe completely out of the rule ideas in combat can be some of the most fun you'll ever have in combat. Just make sure it doesn't tread on any feet. Don't make it counter one player more than the other. Otherwise, you know, people will get a little upset. Just be cautious, but be wacky, be spontaneous. Change things about the fights that the players didn't see coming. I'm sure they will have a very memorable experience on their hands. That's it for this video. Thank you for watching the video. Like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if this is your sort of thing. If it's not, sorry. And I will see you in the next video. Adios.